Nobody expected this to happen at Royal Birkdale, and by the time this video ends, you're going to understand exactly why the entire golf world is talking about nothing else. If you clicked on this video because that title stopped you mid-scroll, good. Because what's happening at Royal Birkdale right now is not a normal Open Championship. This is one of those weeks that people are going to be talking about for years, and I'm not exaggerating. There's a course that got secretly rebuilt. There's a heatwave nobody prepared for. There's a legend who was forced out at the last second because of injury. There's a local underdog who fought through a brutal last-chance qualifier just to earn his spot on this stage. And there's the two biggest names in golf right now walking into this tournament with everything on the line. By the end of this video, you are going to know every single detail of what's unfolding, piece by piece, and trust me, the middle of this story is where it gets absolutely wild. So don't skip ahead. But before I go any further, I need to ask you for something real quick, and I promise this isn't the usual throwaway. Like and subscribe. Line you skip past. I put hours into digging through every source, every update, every reaction from players and insiders to bring you this story the right way, accurate, no fluff, no clickbait lies. If that's the kind of content you actually want more of, hit that subscribe button right now, because channels like this only survive when people like you decide it's worth sticking around for. It genuinely means more than you think. Okay. Let's get into it. So here's where this all starts. Golf's oldest championship, the Open, the tournament every professional golfer on earth grew up dreaming about winning, has landed back at one of its most historic and most brutal venues, Royal Birkdale, on the northwest coast of England, right on the Irish Sea. This isn't Birkdale's first rodeo. This course has hosted the Open 10 times before this year, which makes this the 11th time golf's greatest players have walked these dunes chasing the Claret jug. But here's the twist that a lot of casual fans don't know yet, and it's the reason this year feels completely different from every Open that came before it at this course. Royal Birkdale is not the same golf course it was the last time the Open came through here. Not even close. Back in 2017, when a 23-year-old Jordan Spieth stood on this exact turf and somehow, against all logic, clawed his way to victory over Matt Kuchar in one of the most dramatic final rounds in Open history, the course looked completely different than what players are facing right now. Since then, the club brought in some of the most respected golf course architects in the entire world to quietly and dramatically reshape this layout. And when I say reshape, I don't mean minor tweaks. I mean they tore out an entire hole. The old par 3 14th, gone. Completely removed from the golf course. The old par 5 15th got physically relocated and now plays as the new 14th hole. And in its place, a brand new par 3 15th was built from scratch, a hole that plays completely differently in length, in character, and in the direction it faces compared to anything that existed on this course before. On top of that, the short par 4 5th hole got a full redesign. The par 3 7th got reshaped and shortened. This is essentially a different golf course wearing the same name, and the players walking onto these fairways this week are seeing holes that some of golf's biggest legends, guys like Arnold Palmer, Tom Watson, Lee Trevino, never even played. Now think about what that actually means competitively. Every single player in this field, no matter how many times they've walked a links course before, is dealing with unknowns on this layout that nobody has real tournament experience against. That alone should make this one of the most unpredictable Opens in years. But that's only the first piece of the puzzle. Because on top of a brand new golf course, players are walking into conditions nobody prepared for. Multiple players and insiders on site have already described the week as unusually, almost dangerously hot for this part of England. This is a links course, right on the coast, built for wind, rain, cold, that classic brutal British seaside weather that turns championship golf into survival mode. Instead, players are dealing with heat that reporters on site are calling nothing short of unprecedented for this event. That changes everything: how the ball reacts off the tee, how the greens hold up under pressure, how players manage their energy across 4 grueling rounds. Golfers who trained and prepared for cold, wet, brutal wind are now adjusting on the fly to conditions that feel almost foreign for this tournament's history. And if you think that's the only shake-up heading into this week, it's not even close. Because right before the tournament even started, one of the most respected champions in the field was forced to pull out entirely. Louis Oosthuizen, a past Open champion, someone who has walked this exact path to a Claret jug before, was forced to withdraw from this year's Open due to injury just days before the first tee shot. Think about what that means for a guy who has already tasted what it's like to win this tournament. To have to step away right before championship week, watching from home while the tournament he's already conquered once plays out without him. That is heartbreaking on a level that a lot of casual fans don't fully appreciate. This isn't some rookie missing his shot. This is a proven champion, robbed of his chance to compete, at the exact moment the golf world's attention turns to this event. But here's where the story flips from heartbreak into something genuinely inspiring, because while one champion was forced out the back door, someone else fought his way in through the front, and it's one of the most emotional storylines of this entire Open. There's a young UK golfer named Joe Dean who had to go through what's called a last chance qualifier, an absolutely brutal, high-pressure 18-hole shootout held just days before the championship even begins, where every single golfer on that course knows there's only one spot up for grabs. One mistake, one bad hole, and your dream is over before it even started. Joe Dean walked into that pressure cooker and won it. He earned the very last spot in this year's Open field through sheer grit on the golf course, and by doing that, he turned himself from a name nobody was talking about into a genuine feel-good story heading into Royal Birkdale. This is a guy who, by all accounts, wasn't even supposed to be here, and now he's teeing off in the same championship as the biggest names in the sport. That is the kind of underdog story that golf fans live for, and it's happening right now, this week, at this Open. Now let's talk about the actual heavyweights, because this year's field isn't just deep, it's stacked with some of the most compelling storylines in recent Open history. Scottie Scheffler walks into Royal Birkdale as the reigning Open champion, having won last year's tournament at Royal Portrush in dominant fashion, finishing 4 strokes clear of the field. Scheffler has been, without exaggeration, the most dominant force in golf over the last couple of seasons, and he's chasing something that would put him in truly rare company if he can defend this title on a brand new, redesigned golf course under conditions nobody has faced here before. Then there's Rory McIlroy, a player who needs no introduction to anyone who's followed golf even casually over the last decade. McIlroy has openly said heading into this week that he's not focused on legacy talk, he's focused on the golf course in front of him. But make no mistake, every major this man plays right now is scrutinized under a microscope because of exactly what's at stake for his career. Every stroke, every decision, every round is being dissected by fans and analysts wondering if this is the week he adds another chapter to his story. And then there's the storyline that might matter most to the crowds actually walking these dunes this week: Tommy Fleetwood. This is Fleetwood's literal hometown golf course. He grew up near this exact stretch of English coastline, and now golf's original championship has come to his doorstep while he's chasing his very first major title. Imagine what that pressure feels like, walking out in front of a home crowd, on a course you know intimately, trying to break through for the first major of your career on the biggest stage in the sport. If Fleetwood finds his form this week, this could turn into one of the most emotional major championship stories golf has seen in years. If he doesn't, the disappointment in front of a home crowd will be just as unforgettable, for very different reasons. There's also been a wave of recognition around Aaron Rai, who has been publicly honored alongside comparisons to Jack Nicklaus following a recent major performance, adding even more weight to a field that already reads like an all-star roster of golf's biggest current names. So when you actually step back and look at everything converging on Royal Birkdale this week, it becomes obvious why this Open feels different from almost anything golf fans have seen in recent memory. A golf course that's been secretly redesigned since the last time it hosted this event. Weather so unusually hot it's changing how the entire tournament is being played. A past champion forced out by injury right before the first tee shot. An underdog who fought through pure grit just to earn his spot in the field. And a leaderboard filled with the most dominant, most scrutinized, most emotionally invested players in the entire sport, all chasing the same trophy on the same unpredictable, brand new golf course. Now let's actually dig into the history of this venue for a second, because understanding what Royal Birkdale represents makes everything happening this week hit so much harder. This course has been the stage for some of the most iconic moments in the history of golf. Peter Thomson won 3 straight Open titles here in the 1950s, a run of dominance that's almost unthinkable by modern standards. Arnold Palmer, a name that basically saved this championship's global relevance, won here in the 60s and completely electrified the sport's fanbase. Lee Trevino capped off an absolutely insane stretch of dominance here in 1971, winning national championships across 3 different countries in a single month, and edging out his rival by a single stroke in one of the tightest finishes this course has ever produced. Johnny Miller took the title here in 1976, but that tournament is remembered just as much for a teenage Spanish golfer named Seve Ballesteros, who pulled off a miracle chip on the very last hole that's still talked about as one of the greatest shots in Open history. Tom Watson won back-to-back Opens here in the early 80s. And then, of course, there's 2017, Jordan Spieth's chaotic, emotional, jaw-dropping final round battle with Matt Kuchar, A final round so dramatic it's considered one of the most memorable finishes in modern major championship golf. That is the weight of history sitting on top of everyone teeing off at Royal Birkdale this week. Every player walking these redesigned fairways knows they're not just playing a golf tournament, they're stepping into a lineage of legends, on a golf course that's been quietly transformed into something almost unrecognizable from the version those legends actually played. And that's exactly why this week matters so much. Because whoever manages to figure out this new version of Royal Birkdale first, whoever adapts fastest to holes nobody has real tournament experience on, whoever survives heat that's completely foreign to this event's usual conditions, that golfer is going to walk away not just with a trophy, but with a story that gets told for decades. Is it going to be Scheffler, extending one of the most dominant runs golf has seen in years? Is it going to be McIlroy, adding another unforgettable chapter under the most intense scrutiny of his career? Is it going to be Fleetwood, breaking through for his first major in front of the home crowd that raised him? Or is it going to be someone nobody's talking about right now, the way Spieth wasn't the obvious favorite back in 2017? The way underdogs in this sport have a strange habit of rewriting the script when everyone least expects it. That's the tension sitting over every single shot being played at Royal Birkdale this week, and it's exactly why golf fans everywhere have their eyes locked on this tournament right now. A brand new golf course. Unprecedented conditions. A champion forced out at the worst possible moment. An underdog who clawed his way in. And a final field packed with the most dominant, most emotionally invested players currently in the sport, all colliding on a stage soaked in nearly a century of golf history. If this video gave you the full picture of everything unfolding at this year's Open, do me a favor and stick around, because as this tournament plays out, the story is only going to get bigger, and I promise you, based on everything converging on this golf course this week, this is shaping up to be one of the Open's people are still talking about years from now. If you made it this far, drop a comment telling me who you think handles this new Royal Birkdale layout best under pressure, because I genuinely want to know what you're seeing. And if this video earned it, that subscribe button is right there, hit it, because there is so much more of this coming.